Hi and welcome to Indigo Starfire. My name is Bevin, and in this video I'm going to be looking into your situationship. I'm going to start by taking a look at this person's thoughts and feelings towards you, and then take a look at the likelihood of if they will commit to you. Then I'll get some message cards from their higher self and close the reading out with some initials. There are three groups to choose from. Group 1 is the fluorite. 2 is the amethyst, and group 3 is the citrine. So if you want to take a moment to center, focus on your breathing, and feel whichever group, maybe multiple groups or perhaps all of the groups that you're most drawn to. I'll give you a minute to make your selection and then we'll get right into it. And there are timestamps in the description box of the video for each group if you'd like to jump ahead. And up next is a close-up photo of the crystals to help you better make your selection. Hi, Group 1. Chose the fluorite. So let's start by taking a look at what are the thoughts and feelings of the person that you're in a situationship with towards you and the situationship itself. We have acceptance, lost in space, needing direction, pleasure, and drifter, experiencing life as it comes. So there's a sense here with this drifter card and pleasure that their feelings for you are increasing or deepening in some sort of way, maybe a little quicker than they were comfortable with or than they were anticipating, which it feels to be has led to, for some of you, this may be somebody who's gone cold on you or they've pulled back. A lot of deep introspection, it feels like, that's happening at this time. This isn't really giving the impression of somebody who's losing interest, but somebody who's actually kind of contemplating what's going to be my next move in this situation. Acceptance ties into the fact that they sense a very unique bond between the two of you. If this is like just mostly a physical relationship that you have, there's a sense of that circumstance between the two of you really fitting into kind of the parameters of what they've been looking for at this point in their life. They're really enjoying that dynamic, the time that you spend with one another, the space that's given to one another. But what's really kind of thrown them for a loop is the sense of almost deeper emotions that have come beyond just the physicality, beyond just the attraction, beyond just the sexual aspect of the relationship. And it feels to be something that is not a turnoff. It's significant enough within themselves, or it may even tie into sort of things that have happened in the maybe in the course of like your interactions with one another, but it almost feels to be as like their mind is drifting to the idea of you, or they're just kind of processing and digesting the experience of your energy directly face to face, kind of in their alone time. It feels like there's almost been an opening within the heart chakra of this person, and there's romance that's flooding through, or deeper romantic feelings that are flooding to the surface that it feels like have kind of taken them by surprise, but not in a way that is scaring them off necessarily. And so this feels to be something that the thoughts are, what would a deepening or an expansion of this dynamic look like? Particularly if this is just something where, you know, you're hooking up with one another, it's very casual, there's kind of an understanding about that. There's a sense here of them not really being sure what your feelings would be about starting to turn the connection into something more emotional. So it feels like there may be almost a reason for pause within themselves, both to sort of assess kind of what is this that I'm feeling, why is this coming up, Am I ready for this? What is kind of the next step from here? But then there's also this contemplation and a need to kind of honor your boundaries, whatever sort of rules you've set down in this situation, or just the understanding between the two of you up to this point in time. There's a sense of them being fearful that if they express too much too quickly, then it will undermine kind of the relationship that you have with one another at this particular point in time. If this is something where it hasn't gotten into like sexual territory, if this is just somebody where there's been flirtation with, maybe a friendship where there's kind of like innuendos or a sense of something deeper going on, there's also this energy here of wanting to honor or kind of keep intact whatever that foundation is that the two of you share with one another, while they are also kind of having these blossoming feelings of romance within themselves. It's a sense of really appreciating and enjoying the time that you have with one another, whatever that kind of dynamic looks like on the surface, wanting to explore something deeper, but it feels like really vetting that out within themselves first. Do we have a solid enough foundation to ground taking that leap of faith forward into romance? Or if it turns out that we're not compatible romantically speaking, like if this is a friendship situation or just somebody casually, there's a sense of them not wanting to disrupt, maybe the necessity of the relationship. If it's like a working relationship that you have, there's almost a sense of them not wanting to interfere with that or create any sort of awkwardness in that, either by expressing their feelings, or if you decided to date or explore romantic territory, or again, kind of dive into something a little more intimate and personal with one another. There's a sense of we work very well with each other as we are at this point in time, but what if the compatibility ceases to exist when we cross that line or that threshold and that boundary into something more? So again, this feels like for a lot of you, this may be something where you're sensing like a hot and cold energy with this person, or they may kind of almost seem checked out when you're talking to them or you're interacting with them. Like their mind is somewhere else, or they're distracted, or maybe they're kind of coming up with excuses to sort of avoid you. And it feels to be something that they are deep within the heart space at this particular point in time, kind of strategizing the next move forward, really feeling into what is the nature of what is blossoming within me, and how can I express that in a way that sort of honors my emotional needs, your emotional needs, and whatever that structure and framework is that you have with one another up to this point in time. So let's take a look at, will they commit to you? What are their potential actions towards you at this point? Okay, so we have Order of Melchizedek, embraced by light, mission uncovered, don't give up. Feeling the world. And Chamber of the Violet Flame, karmic release, radical transformation. So this energy right here, virtually the same imagery on both of these cards, kind of like a figure holding a globe. This speaks to more of that energy of deep introspection. So for the time being, they're kind of uncovering a lot of layers within themselves. They may be actually kind of triggered by the idea of rejection, or maybe the nature of what's kind of come up for them emotionally speaking is bringing up some wounds, some insecurities within, almost the sense of, if this person expresses that they have deeper feelings or want to take things to the next level, am I prepared to do that emotionally speaking? So it feels like, at least for the immediate time being, with this idea of karmic release, they're going to continue to go within. They're going to continue to kind of vet out, what are these fears? What is the nature of my hesitation? Why am I not trusting in my heart? And at the same point in time, not getting kind of lost in that mental space, but this is almost like observer energy, wanting to make sure it feels like that there is the ability for them to make the best choice for themselves and for you. The idea here with this Order of Melchizedek and don't give up, again, any kind of prolonged energy of being kind of hot and cold or distant or withdrawn, this is not an indicator that this person is, kind of checked out of the relationship or looking at other options, or kind of giving you the long goodbye in a sense. This is almost like they've retreated within themselves to really kind of unpack or soul search in a way. What can I realistically offer this person? What do I now imagine that this relationship could blossom into? Because as a situationship, they may have had a very just kind of precise idea of what you are to one another, what that future potential could look like, very much living in the moment. Now there's this expansiveness of, okay, I've caught feelings for this person, or these feelings have deepened for this person. What now? What's the next step? Not to just kind of dip the toe in the water of something more and have it all kind of fall apart. But there's a sense of them, whatever that next leap of faith forward is, they're wanting to kind of have that with a longer trajectory. Something where it opens the door to a new kind of exploration with a wider parameter of what's possible between the two of you. So this does feel like they are thinking in the long-term sense, kind of planning and strategizing ways to expand the connection, or even kind of commit to you. If it's been a back and forth and they've just been very vague at this point in time, they're very much geared toward a different and specific sort of path with you. Something has given way within themselves. It feels like for every day or every occasion that they're kind of going within and honoring that need within themselves to sort of inventory the romantic past, or whatever kind of fears and hesitations are kind of creating a bit of almost slowing down or like a block that's emanating from within. This is something that they're not just being discouraged, they're not just taking that at face value and kind of resolving themselves to that's all there is to this situation and trying to pull away. There's almost a sense of them trying to chip away at these boundaries and barriers by continuing to address that, by continuing to look at that. Each occasion or each day that sort of goes by, it feels like they become more and more comfortable with the idea of, yes, I want to experience something more. Yes, I want to explore something more with this person. Yes, I see a longer term potential between the two of us, or more to this situation than I thought was possible before, than I felt that I was ready for before. But again, it feels like they want to do their due diligence to make sure they're prepared on their side emotionally, because there's a sense here of like they're not certain how you feel or what your idea about the situation is, expanding beyond whatever the nature of your understanding is with one another at this point. So there's almost a sense of them wanting to make sure that they can handle that rejection if it happens, but that they can also handle, propelling forward into something more stable and secure, and expansive and intimate with you if you give them the green light and kind of acknowledge, yeah, I feel the same way. Let's explore this. Let's see what happens. So let's get a few message cards from their higher self and see what they want to tell you. Okay, and they say, I want to rebuild our connection. So there's that confirmation. If they pulled away emotionally or energetically speaking, this is not this person trying to just ghost you or leave you out in the cold. They're doing some internal work. The interior landscape is currently under construction, under renovation, or they're mapping that out. Kind of what can they realistically offer you? What are some of the prohibitions or limitations that they have within themselves as far as what they're looking for in terms of romance, things that have happened in their romantic past that might have caused them to sort of close off or become guarded, hesitant, or skeptical. There's a sense of them not wanting to punish you for the mistakes of people in their past, and so kind of taking ownership, it feels like at this point in time, to sort of loose any barriers that have been in place or may have kind of reflexively or instinctively sort of risen in conjunction with the opening of this person emotionally and at the heart space level to you. And they also say, I miss you more and more every day. So again, the distance that may have incurred in this situation, if you feel that they've been avoiding you or you haven't really talked to them for a while, or, it's just not been the same lately with them, there's a sense of You are not out of sight, out of mind. This is not a situation where they're kind of looking toward new territory to explore romantically, or, other people to get involved with. There's a sense of them really retreating within themselves, doing that work within, maybe even kind of a little bit of like a mini dark night of the soul, or at least inventorying things kind of within their shadow, fears as far as love is concerned, looking at the list of sort of their shortcomings in romances or deeper, bonds or connections in their personal past, as far as like, where could they have done better? Because it feels like in this situation with you, taking that next step forward, they almost want to make sure they're not repeating mistakes on their part from their own romantic past. And they also say, it makes me happy to see you thriving, even though it's without me. So if you are at a distance, you haven't talked to this person in a while, they're still checking you up on social media. If you still have some contact with them, there's a sense of every time they see you, every time they interact with you, they are more enticed, they are drawn in, they're magnetized towards you, feeling very comfortable in your space, very comfortable in your energy, and wanting to kind of join you in that realm, in that kind of vibration of, you give off this impression of being a person that their heart would be safe with. And it may have been quite some time since they felt that way. They may never have felt that way about somebody to the same extent that they feel with you. And so there's a sense of trying to create some semblance of joy within themselves in order to be able to bring you like a higher vibration of energy emotionally, rather than whatever kind of baggage or hangups they may have had from like previous disappointments in love. They also say, I've been dreaming about having a future with you. So there may be a lot of contact in the astral realm and kind of the liminal space, the dream time, that sort of is an indicator of a desire that they have to provide more, present more, open up more to you, that there may be limits as far as that's concerned in a material sense, self-imposed or otherwise. But in that dream space, kind of even as they are daydreaming about you, the energy's flowing where the attention is going. So that can be a confirmation that very consciously, this connection, this situationship, the idea of you, the prospect of you in a future with you is a top priority as far as that internal world and like where their mind is going on a regular basis. They also say we are forever soul and heart connected. So that's that confirmation of wanting to deepen the connection, expand the connection, broaden the connection, maybe discuss the idea of even creating a connection, or dating, or just wherever you're at in this situationship. There's a desire for more. There's a desire to get to know you better, to get to know you on a deeper emotional and intimate level, to have you get to know them on a deeper emotional, intimate level as well. And they also say, I will come back towards you when the time is right. So there's another confirmation that any distance, any kind of, quietness on their part, anything where it feels like they've retreated within, they've shut down, or even kind of reflexively sort of pulled back from you, that might have left some confusion. There's a sense of this is not kind of the end. This is not goodbye. They're not just cutting and running out of this situation. Something has stirred within them to the capacity where almost instinctually they know they kind of need to go in and check that out. They need to go in and kind of make sure that they are emotionally ready for the next step in this situation, for what more can develop in this situation. They're not just wanting to kind of leave things as they are, or keep it on a surface level, or whatever it looks like within that situationship for you. There's a desire to move more in the direction of romance, and so top priority at this time is kind of making that internal space within themselves, that emotional space, kind of the proper environment for romance to blossom between the two of you. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got R, S, A, P, Q, E, O, H, J, Y, C, B, R, and D. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 2. Chose the amethyst. So let's start by taking a look at the thoughts and feelings of the person that you're in the situationship with towards you and the situationship itself. We have the path, the unexpected, horseman, herald of change, and me talks, repairing the body, mind, and spirit. So there's a sense here that you have changed this person's direction profoundly in terms of the course that they were heading in their life. They've almost been taken aback by the experience of you. This can relate to, you may have instigated some sort of spiritual awakening within this person, a lot of activations or downloads that they're getting, almost like psychic gifts or an energetic sensitivity that they have that they may or may not have been aware of. It's heightened in some kind of capacity. There's a magnetic draw towards you that it feels like transcends emotions, although there is a sense of almost the level that they care for you. It feels like as a person, as an energetic being, and also within sort of like the heart space, this is something which is profound enough that it's kind of opened their eyes to really sort of assessing what their priorities have been up to this point in time, what experiences in romance or connection with other people, what that has done to them and for them, both in a positive and negative capacity, to where this feels like somebody at this point in time who just by virtue of the fact of like spending time with you, exchanging energies with you, they're now in this process of like a life inventory, or in some way their ideas of kind of what they thought the situation would develop into, or kind of the nature of your relation to one another in your lives, that has changed. That's taken on a different meaning, because on some interpersonal level, almost coinciding very directly with the intersection of you and their life, or getting to spend more time with you, even just being like in proximity to you within the same room, there may be a lot of like synchronicities that are happening, signs that they're getting, things that they are able to very consciously relate back to you. It may speak to, something about like the conjoining of the two of you, or kind of urges and nudges from their spirit guides to pursue this, to continue to participate with you, to be very kind of open, or to go through a process of like opening up, detoxing, ascension. There may be a lot of ascension symptoms that this person is experiencing at this particular point in time, as kind of their energy calibrates to the experience of you. It feels to be something that there is a conscious level awareness to some degree. So this may be somebody who is already like walking a spiritual path, for example. They're at least aware of like energy, vibes, things of that nature. Or it may even be something where they've sensed like a soul connection with you and have taken it upon themselves to research this. They're familiarizing themselves with all of that kind of language and terminology, and are seeing things that resonate. You've expanded or opened their mind in some way, or maybe even taken them off of kind of just strictly a mundane or material path, and you've kind of shifted that focus to matters of the spiritual, as far as it relates to, kind of their experience of life in general, and also matters of the heart. It feels to be something where they might not be necessarily yet at the point of calling it like a soul connection, although they may start to resonate with you at this point in time, or kind of dancing around that idea of like that you're a soulmate. There may be almost the sense of familiarity or like a deja vu, like I know you from somewhere, this feels so familiar. You almost kind of illuminate some light deeply within to like core parts of themselves. It feels like that they had run from, that they'd been unaware of for quite some time. It's a very peaceful energy with this expansiveness. It's almost like somebody who's very captivated or engaged with sort of what they're seeing, what they're witnessing unfold between the two of you within themselves. It almost feels like there's an urge to start to talk about these things with you. Some of the more kind of otherworldly or extraordinary elements of what they're seeing or sensing, or what they're even going through personally as a byproduct of kind of connecting with you, interacting with you, whatever that situationship looks like. If this is a sexual connection between the two of you, it feels like that is very transcendent of an experience for them. It is awakened something like Kundalini energy. It maybe have even like opened up their heart chakra in some capacity, to where it's more though than just feeling that deep sort of transcendent sexual bond with you. This is something where it's almost kind of like activating, cleansing, bringing online, both a degree of like darkness that they're needing to sort of sift through, but this feels like something where there's a consistency, there's like a level-headedness, there's a sense of going with the flow, maybe not necessarily understanding all of what's happening, but understanding that there's something more, there's something almost kind of like mystical or an up-leveling that's taking place through the experience of the two of you with one another. So there's almost like this person is kind of sitting in a place of sacred awe at what's happening, or at who you are, or the nature of kind of who they're discovering themselves to be, or what's taking place between the two of you during these interactions in the time apart. They may be sensing your energy around them a lot, but there's not a lot of fear as far as that's concerned. It's like a peaceful energy. It's very captivating. It's almost like it makes sense to them in a way that other things in their life, or even just where they were at in their life in general, might have felt like a struggle. It may have felt like a lot of turbulence. And all of a sudden, there's almost this sense of like an open door of opportunity for them to kind of move through that into a place of serenity and understanding, which it feels like the connection with you, or the energies between the two of you, it's not even like a welcome escape. It's an outlet away from almost like fighting against gravity, or trying to swim against the current, which may have really kind of set the tone for interpersonal relationships in general for them, romances of the past, or just other things going on in their life. There's almost a sense of them feeling very quenched and rejuvenated through the experience of you. And with that is an interest in kind of getting to know you more, spending more time with you, again, kind of diving into some deeper things, spiritually, energetically speaking, everything that's kind of happening with some kind of an ascension or upgrades that are going on. But with this is not someone who wants to run and hide from you and the experience of this. It's almost like they are somebody who's in the process of kind of being altered or shifted in some kind of way, internally and energetically speaking. And it carries with it kind of this interest or this intent or this understanding, like we're in this together. We're both going through this process at the same time. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to be able to speak on it directly, or to just kind of like dive in deeper, or create more consistency, it feels like, with you, in order to get to know more about you, touch upon this energy more directly, participate with you, because as much as it might be sort of something which has directed or altered kind of the course of their life, or what they were focusing on, it feels to be something that's almost like a welcome pivot, or just what they've needed. So let's take a look at their next actions towards you, and the idea of, will they commit to you? Will they do anything to kind of carry this situation forward, or bring it into something more solid and stable? Okay, so we have inner earth, base chakra, strength and security, laying foundations, a tall tale, And Seraphim's Gateway, voice activation, angelic attunement, divine support. So there's a sense here of this person taking some time to kind of sift through, illusions, it feels like, within their experience in love in the past, masks that they have been wearing or have been conditioned to wear based on career, based on, relationships that they've been in, kind of who the world expects them to be. There's a process of them shifting out of that into more of an authentic self, which it feels like is kind of the prelude to being able to, speak more fully, more directly with you about the nature of what they're experiencing, about what it is that they're feeling. This can tie into any kind of like life changes or pivots that they are inspired to undertake at this particular point in time, that there's a sense of them creating more consistency with you, being more present, being more kind of active within those present moments, cues, indicators, not so much like hints or breadcrumbing, but it almost feels, sort of leading the way and being very responsive to kind of like a dialogue between the two of you, maybe of some of the kind of otherworldly elements of this connection. Before diving into things that have to do with like emotions or what it is that they're feeling, it feels like this person is really going to tap into and touch upon the energetic bond between the two of you first and foremost. Maybe even kind of have those conversations about, you feel like someone I may have known from a previous life, you feel so familiar, perhaps even the idea of bringing up like soulmates or soul connections, talking to you about some of the things they're experiencing, phenomenon that they're experiencing psychically, energetically speaking. And all of this, it feels like, is not just small talk. It's not just discussions about spirituality. It almost feels to be something that there's an intention on their part to ride the wave of this, which they're starting to understand is almost like the idea of a connection that can be built from the top down, which may be a very new experience for them. It feels to be something that they're acknowledging and will continue to acknowledge as like a crucial component of the dynamic between the two of you. And it feels like it also correlates with kind of how they're starting to understand or identify that quality of themselves as well, the energetic component of who they are, as opposed to just, the practical or surface level version of themselves. So while they go through this metamorphosis, kind of going through the hats that they've worn in their life, or whatever that kind of persona or mask is that they're kind of wearing currently, refashioning that, reshaping that, kind of writing a new narrative for themselves in some kind of capacity, they're bringing you with them through this process. They're walking alongside of you through this. So it feels like in more of a longer term sense, it's kind of laying more of a foundation between the two of you with this idea of like inner earth, getting to know more about you as a person, more about your journey, more about your experiences, more again about like exchanging. Are you feeling and experiencing a lot of the same kind of extraordinary qualities that I am in this situation? And with that is kind of the idea of wanting to sort of raise that up, elevate that beyond just, you're talking about kind of like deep topics and things that are a little outside of the box in terms of like typical conversation. There's a sense here of them wanting to kind of honor the nature of some journey they now find themselves on that they feel correlates with you, and perhaps also relates to a journey that you find yourselves on, kind of like companions who have encountered one another along separate paths or separate journeys, and now you're walking with one another. They're wanting to continue that, and it feels like build upon that element of things before sort of diving into a deepening of like, okay, now we're talking love and romance. It's almost, what are these other kind of extraordinary qualities? Why have we crossed paths with one another? That's kind of the area they're wanting to build on with you, because it correlates very specifically to something that they're being called to or feeling compelled to sort of retrofit within themselves, or almost bringing like a spiritual side of themselves more out into kind of the dominant personality, or even kind of recreating their life in general, some kind of major pivot that they may be preparing themselves to do or in the process of doing that aligns in some way with maybe the direction they sense that you're headed, or it might even kind of be something where you're sort of sharing in that experience with one another and kind of building in that capacity. So let's see what they want you to know from their higher self. Okay, and they say, when can I hold you again? I will never let you go. So again, there is this interest in deepening the bond between the two of you, going deeply within themselves to, kind of observe and evaluate and sort of soak in this kind of extraordinary quality between the two of you, wanting to create more closeness. It feels like this is something very new for this person to have a spiritually based relationship, or something with quite obvious like spiritual overtones and undertones. And so it feels to be something that they're almost sensing this might have been a missing ingredient in connections in their past. And so they are wanting to emphasize that, wanting to include that in whatever else develops out of the situationship between the two of you, wanting to use that as kind of like the anchor, or the point in which kind of greater potential is harnessed in the situation. They also say, my biggest regret is not telling you how I really feel. So they may have sensed kind of spiritual things, energetic bond between the two of you, signs and synchronicities for quite some time. And it feels like there's almost an impatience at this point. They're wanting to discuss it all with you. They're wanting to open up with you. They needed to kind of like do some research, expand their spiritual knowledge, gain that kind of familiarity of what they're dealing with, what they've encountered here, what they theorize is kind of the dynamic between the two of you. And there's a sense of they wish that they had kind of been open about that from the start, because maybe they feel that you hold some kind of answers to that. You're more kind of spiritually advanced than they are. Maybe you're already walking a spiritual path, and this could have been somebody that was not. And so they're kind of looking towards you as sort of like a guide or a teacher in some capacity, but they're wanting to kind of create equal footing, so that it's mutual discussions as opposed to just you kind of showing them the way. They're wanting to almost kind of bring something more to the table for you in that capacity. They also say, pictures of you still make me smile. So they're sensing your energy even kind of remotely. They may be sort of picturing the future with you, or times that they have spent in the past, maybe even visions and downloads of like past lives or parallel lives that the two of you share with one another, and wanting to kind of create a sense of something very special in this material world, in this kind of lifetime or timeline that the two of you are finding yourselves upon, wanting to kind of create almost a picture perfect situation in terms of emotional components, physical compatibility, and again, like a spiritual element that they are now kind of understanding is crucial or necessary, maybe based on sort of what's unfolding for them, the direction their life is headed, or almost a sense of like an aha moment or an epiphany that this is what they've been missing all along. This is what they've been needing. This is what they've been craving. This is what they've been searching for with other people, have yet to find, and then here you are, and it's kind of blossomed between the two of you. They also say, my higher self is with you every single day. So there's more of that kind of mystical, sort of spiritual energy, deep empathic bond between the two of you. It feels like this person is deliberately, intentionally, consciously, kind of telepathically communicating with you, trying to send you signs and messages and, cues and indicators that they recognize there's something more going on in the situation between the two of you than meets the eye. That idea of the higher self being with you is also sort of a placeholder. It feels like, while the 3D conscious version of this person, makes some adjustments within their life, or kind of gets up to speed spiritually, whatever that looks like as far as taking in information, or renegotiating things, it feels like within their own life, so that they've got the space and capacity to explore kind of not just the otherworldly component of this situation, but it feels like a desire to kind of get to know you more on all levels as well. They also say, I am always with you in spirit. So another confirmation there. The higher self is always with you. They're always with you in spirit. This is the conscious person, it feels like, willing this to happen. This is not just the higher self is with you and the conscious individual is kind of focused on other things, even if they may seem very distracted, or they're kind of in the process of expanding that spiritual knowledge, or going through some kind of an ascension or an awakening. There's almost the sense of so much that they want to say to you that they can't or that they won't at this particular point in time. But internally, quietly, they're kind of trying to send their energy your way, so that you know, kind of despite the words that aren't sort of audibly spoken, that there's definitely a communication between the two of you on that spiritual level, on that kind of heart-to-heart level. And they also say, I wish I could feel your body close to mine. So again, this desire to ground into the material reality, a higher level connection, a spiritual connection, a soul connection that they sense with you. You know, they're not just wanting to kind of leave it in this realm of sort of looking at the circumstance with a sense of awe and kind of soaking all of that in. But there's definitely the energy here of long-term plans and goals for this individual is to build a spiritually based connection with you from the top down. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got L, V, C, J, E, B, O, Q, L, S, W, R, K, C, U, E, and M. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you would like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well. Hi, Group 3. Chose the citrine. So let's start by taking a look at the person that you are in a situationship with. What are their thoughts and feelings towards you in the situationship itself? We have abundance, extremes, drifter, experiencing life as it comes, and in the hand, the universe is your partner. So there's a sense here with this person with abundance that they see you as having all the right qualifications for the type of person that they would be looking for in terms of a partnership, in terms of settling down. They feel very safe to be themselves, very encouraged to be themselves, very abundant within the relationship itself, within the situationship. You know, if it's a sexual relationship, they find that very fulfilling. If it's a circumstance where, you know, maybe you're friends and there are hints and innuendos of something more, they're enjoying that nature of the friendship with kind of the overtones or the undertones of flirtation. If it's like a work situation where, you know, there's just a chemistry and kind of a certain something between the two of you, they're liking that. It adds a little bit of spice into the work day, into the routine. But there's a sense that they may be at a place in their life where they don't really know what they want, with extremes and drifters. Kind of the idea of, you know, they're looking for love, they're looking for romance one day, and the next day they kind of just want to be, you know, like a feather in the wind, sort of moving in accordance with their own sort of will and whims. And so there's a sense here of that you challenge that idea of almost a freedom within themselves, that they may equate as like, they may call themselves like a free spirit, or you know, pride themselves on not being attached, not being tied down. They may have gotten out of like a toxic or kind of an oppressive relationship recently or at some point in the past that kind of just created a resolve within themselves that they weren't going to let anyone in emotionally. They weren't going to let anyone in close enough to hurt them again, or that they wanted to just kind of be single and unattached. And so they feel very compelled and confronted by that sort of parameter or boundary they've set up with themselves, that they kind of answer to themselves only with this idea of like in the hand, the universe is the partner. They are their top priority. It may even be something where they had taken time to heal from a previous relationship and are kind of like trapped in a cycle of healing. They've shut the doors to the idea of romance and partnership with anyone else to kind of like find themselves, spend time in their own energy, and then you've popped into their life and into their reality as kind of an incentive or a bit of encouragement, from the universe that it might be time to complete or wrap up that process of healing. They've kind of closed themselves off from the experience of love and partnership, maybe because someone in their past was careless with their heart. So they see you as almost like an opportunity or kind of, it would be a blessing to deepen the connection or to open up to romantic components, but it feels like at the present moment they're very tied and tethered to the idea of only really having themselves to answer to, not kind of getting too attached, like a no strings attached kind of an energy, and yet they're feeding upon or feeding into, and being very kind of stimulated and fulfilled by that sense of like there could be something more between the two of us, or there's more than meets the eye in this situation. So it's a very self-focused energy at this particular point in time. It definitely, the circumstance, the nature of the situation, the way that they find you pleasing on many levels, it feeds their ego, but it feels like it's also very threatening to their ego in terms of they would need to be vulnerable and open up in order to develop things further, in order to sort of take that understanding and reality that they have that you'd be a really good match for them, or to move in the direction of romance with you would be a very positive experience. That feels to be something that is overwhelmingly known to this person. They don't question that. And yet it's the sense of almost like, can I step out of a selfish phase of my life and move into a place where I'm willing to kind of share my experience more directly with another person? So let's take a look at their possible actions towards you and if they'll commit or do something to kind of move out of that territory of kind of putting their own needs first. Okay, so we have Shambhala initiations, retreat to recharge, trusting in the process, Dharma. Sacred inner space, sacral chakra, tenderness, sensuality. Healing the heart. And birds of a feather. So there's a sense here that even though they feel in a way sort of like their freedom, their autonomy the idea of that has been triggered by the nature of what you bring to the table, a very magnetic and compelling energy, that this is something that is not kind of the limit or the extent of what is possible in this situation, but whatever that trigger is that's happened, there may be a need for them to kind of like go within and really start to evaluate that, really start to evaluate those life choices. Kind of, it feels like steps that they may take back from you or away from you, blockades that they put up against this connection or against the idea of kind of furthering things on an emotional level. It feels like they just sort of back themselves into a corner where they're needing to confront maybe some fears about partnership, or again, like somebody who may have been kind of trapped within a healing cycle, or almost just like, I'm not going to get involved in, deep connections again. It's almost like Three of Cups energy with these birds here, that kind of just keeping it on the limits of like a friendship or surface level, nothing too deep, nothing too intense. It feels like they continue to reinforce that resolve within themselves and maybe sort of, push away you or the idea of you, start to kind of back away from maybe feeding into that chemistry between the two of you. But it's very necessary for them to kind of like go within and either release themselves from a process of healing, or to really be confronted with the idea of, they can't just be alone forever, or maybe they don't want to really be alone forever, that there's almost like a deep and abiding kind of loneliness within sort of an overinflated ego approach that they've taken. But the only way to kind of like look at that, because it feels like they've turned their back on that idea, or they've avoided that in some way. So you might actually function as kind of like a catalyst for them for what could be like a dark night of the soul, or something that the more they kind of push or resist, the connection or the idea of exploring things further, it kind of circumnavigates them to a place where there's no choice but to sort of address that. Why, if somebody that could kind of add abundance to the measure of your life comes along, why would you just sort of dismiss that because it would involve reciprocating energy with another person on more of an egalitarian level, as opposed to just being very self-serving or very self-absorbed. So wounds that they're needing to heal, that it almost feels like something that this situationship not progressing into something more at this particular point in time, it almost saves you heartbreak and heartache, because this person is kind of like shut down emotionally. Their heart might be blocked. They might have blocked it off. So there may be like a need for a heart chakra opening or activation. That could be something that, the more they kind of back off or distance themselves, it almost feels like some energetic draw towards you, or some kind of reason that you've aligned with one another, something where you've been almost like placed in one another's paths, or rather you've been placed in this person's path. They may not really serve a purpose for you as far as like a lesson, maybe a lesson in kind of just things that aren't reciprocating your energy, or people that aren't reciprocating your energy. Leave them where you find them and sort of move forth with your life. But it almost feels like you represent kind of a major lesson for this person, of sort of really looking within and saying, is this approach that I've taken to love and romance, and maybe just preferring like surface level or flirtations or like no strings attached, is this coming from a wounded place, or is this something that really sort of serves my desires for life in general? So it may be something that, as kind of distance is created between the two of you, maybe there's a bit more flirtation, but it almost feels to be something where, they start to back off of that a little bit. That this could be something that kind of initiates or kickstarts a very necessary process of like self-reflection, where they've maybe become bitter and jaded toward the idea of romance, love, and partnerships, and that this isn't the healthiest or the highest vibration that they could be holding within themselves, to kind of build more of a prosperous or all-encompassing future for themselves. So it's almost the sense of things not progressing with this person saves you from being kind of derailed from wherever you're at on your emotional journey, or your own particular healing journey, or something that almost helps to kind of like redirect you to move into alignment with, somebody else that may come along that is more of a proper fit for you, that will see what you bring to the table and will not hesitate to kind of participate with that, as opposed to sort of seeing what you bring to the table and choosing kind of, that perpetual bachelor or perpetual bachelorette sort of energy. So let's get some messages from this person's higher self. Okay, and they say, I lost sight of what was important in our connection. So that's, again, a confirmation that this person's kind of shut down in the heart space. They're not looking for anything deep. They're not looking for anything long-term or lasting at this particular point in time, because they've kind of lost their way in terms of their life, in terms of, romantic partnerships. They may be very jaded, very wounded from past experiences. So they don't really bring much in terms of quality energy to the table for you. They also say, I need space. The separation is needed right now. So again, a confirmation that they might cool their efforts towards you, or create a little bit of distance. It may be something where it's just sort of almost feels like a game of cat and mouse with this person, flirtation, and then they're off, and you just really don't know what's happening, where it's going. If this is a sexual connection, then it may be something where, you're only hearing from them when they want to hook up, and they're not having conversations with you. You know, they're kind of not participating with you in other sorts of ways, or it's just very, maybe even limited dialogue between the two of you when you are with one another. You know, an indicator that they kind of, they've hit a wall within themselves, or there's a block within them where they're just not able to go the distance with you. They're not able to participate emotionally with you. And they also say, I miss us. So this ties into the idea that they see and sense that you're kind of like the full package. It would be a really beautiful thing to have a connection with you, but they're sensing that you may just be a missed opportunity for them, because they're in a place where they're kind of closed down to that, to something next level, to, you know, in whatever way that resonates for you, to something that is deep and emotional and beyond the surface. There's an understanding that it's like they need to free themselves from some kind of a limitation, something where they've just sort of shut themselves inside of themselves, along with a lot of unprocessed and unhealed pain. There's a sense of maybe even their higher self letting them know that, you know, you're not going to wait around for this person forever, or again, that you represent some kind of lesson for them. An opportunity presented itself to sort of take a leap of faith out of whatever their ordinary tendency was, or whatever kind of the vibe was that they were holding, or the idea was that they were holding about love and partnerships, kind of moving out of like a Three of Cups, just surface level energy, into something deeper. And there's resistance on their part. There's kind of a choosing of loyalty to that sense of no strings attached in this situation, which it feels like on some level they're aware of, that they may look back upon that decision and regret that in the future. They also say, sometimes I struggle to express my feelings for you. So this kind of ties into just in general, they struggle to express their feelings. They may be kind of emotionally immature or stunted in some sort of way, hurt or wounded, and kind of their idea of a healing journey may have just been bitterness, just shutting down, just like, I'm not going to let anyone in close again. I'm not going to get involved in deep emotional and romantic connections because they only fall apart, or I only end up getting hurt. Just kind of like a defeatist narrative, a defeatist attitude that they've taken on. And they also say your warmth radiates through your soul. So they do find your energy and you and the experience of you very inviting, very enticing. They are drawn towards you almost like a moth to a flame, but it feels like there's limit or like an energy of lack that they hold within themselves, where they can kind of only just take from you at this point in time, rather than being able to kind of give and reciprocate in kind. And they also say, I fell in love with you the moment we connected. So you definitely, I don't know if it would be so much as like love in this situation, but you definitely sparked an awareness within this person that if they were capable of love or looking for love, you would be the type of person that they would, or that they should kind of progress forward with in that capacity. But with all these other energies, it's speaking overwhelmingly to someone who's just kind of shut down in the heart space right now. You know, perhaps the future will bring forth something. It may take sort of you moving on, or, you know, even if you're just still participating with this person, like if it's a friendship, it's a work connection, you know, they may go through a process of being very affected by your energy, trying to resist, which sort of like puts them in a position of needing to kind of evaluate and assess their motivations for that, kind of freeing themselves from that trap that they find themselves in. And then that might open the door to something more further down the road. So these initials can be a first, middle, or last name, or can spell something out, just whatever resonates for you. We've got F, V, G, Q, B, X, K, S, Y, I, R, R, P, S, and D. So those are your messages. I hope that they resonated with you and that you enjoyed the reading. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, or share. If you'd like a personal reading, I offer those through my Etsy shop, and there's a link to that in the description box of the video. I offer a variety of pre-recorded video readings, written readings, and channeled letters. Turnaround time on everything is 5 to 7 days from the time of purchase. I also sell handmade jewelry, dream catchers, and sun catchers if you're interested in checking any of those out as well. I hope to see you again in another reading. Please take care and be well.